Man, has some things happened in the last 24 hours. Let's dive into it. Let's talk about it. Good morning, everybody. I've got some good news for you. I got some good news for you. On Sunday's show, we have a guest coming in. Our friend, my friend, a friend of the show, Richard Ojeda, has won his primary in North Carolina in a district that was considered to be blood red. They were not going to have to put a dime into that district. They really thought they had this done. Given the shift politically, the numbers that have been moving and continue to move towards Democrats, on top of which Richard Ojeda being an amazing candidate, we now have a district that he's fighting in North Carolina that is absolutely a possible flip. It is. We need to support Richard. So Richard will be here on Sunday to talk about it, and I couldn't be more excited. I couldn't. I love talking to Richard. I love talking to smart people. I do. I just love talking to smart people. There are so many districts out there right now, folks, that are the Republicans really thought they were not going to have a problem with, that they weren't going to have to spend money in. And, this dark money advantage that the Republicans have, this corporate, sweetheart money that they get, really doesn't mean shit when they have to spend it from border to border to border to border. When they have to fight for districts they never thought they would have to spend a dime in, their funding advantage means fuck all. It does. It does. Well, look, folks, we've got some things going on, and before we get to the in-depth conversation of it, this is the kind of conversation that only you can have. This is not the kind of conversation that the stupids can have. They just can't. We are going to talk about some events that have just happened in the Iran conflict, but we're going to talk about the larger regional context of it, because that'll give us a good vision, a good glimpse into the future as to where this is going to go. But before we can get to talking about what's going to happen, we've got to talk about what's happening right now. To give you an idea of just how desperate the Trump administration is, how desperate the Republicans are, and how much they know this is absolutely all blowing up in their faces. This just happened. Now, I don't care if you like Chuck Schumer or not. He just dunked on the Trump administration and the Republicans. He just took John Thune to the woodshed, and John Thune just bent over and said, "Thank you, Daddy. I'll take another." This just happened. The Republicans have given up. The chaos coming out of the Trump White House has caused John Thune and the Republicans in the Senate to go, "We're done with this." What they've agreed to do is what the Democrats wanted to do, which is they isolated out ICE and Border Patrol from the DHS funding, and they're going to fund the rest of DHS. Why is that such a win? Well, the Republicans have calculated, wrongly, by the way, that the pain that they were inflicting, the chaos that they were inflicting, they were going to be able to say, look, Democrats are doing this to you. It's the Democrats that are holding up the funding. We would pass all the funding today, but they just like illegals. They really thought that was going to be a winning message. Hell, I even thought that was going to be a winning message. When you can go back and take a look at a lot of my videos regarding shutdowns, and I was like, man, that is a mistake. And then when they just got it centered around DHS and got the rest of the government opened up, I was like, ooh, wait a minute. And everybody was still like, fuck Chuck Schumer, I hate that guy, this, that, the other. I'm like, no, Chuck's killing it here. Wait for it. And I had no idea that they would be able to. I'll be honest with you. I knew they were going to get something done like this, but this is just everything that they could possibly hope for politically. This is literally the Republicans just rolling over. This means that the only funding fight that they're going to have right now is going to be over ICE and Border Patrol. And the only leverage on either side is going to be in the Democrats' hands. Their demands will just be met. You know, as long as they keep it reasonable, and which is not going to make a lot of people happy, because they're going to want it defunded, and they're going to want, no, they're going to have to keep the demands reasonable. As long as they keep them there, the Democrats are going to be able to just basically write this bill. This is huge. Now, and Trump is going to sign this. He is going to sign this. The Republicans in Congress have said this is over. And why? What triggered this? Well, Trump came out yesterday. He took a look at his polling numbers. He took a look at what he's going to have to do and what's going to happen in Iran, and decided he can't have both these fights at one time. So he said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and pay TSA. Congress doesn't have to do shit. I'll find the money. And the entire country said, what? What? This was an option all along? You have cluster fucked our airports. You have slapped the TSA in the face. You put these idiotic ICE morons in our airports. You did all of this, and the entire time you could have just paid TSA. And that information coming out into the general population. Remember, you are different. You are informed. Most people are not following what's going on. They're not. You seeing this is very different from what the general population sees. And even fucking Cletus understands this. Wait a minute. This was an option all along? We didn't have to do this stupid shit? Well, there goes the Republicans' leverage. There goes their narrative that, oh, look, the Democrats are doing this to you. Well, you can't make that argument when Trump is saying, I can just pay him. I'll save the day. I'm a hero. Woo! Even Cletus understands, wait a minute. You told me I had to miss my flight because I had to stand in TSA for 4 hours and miss my damn flight because the Democrats were doing this to us. And now you're saying it never had to be this way? Even Cletus gets this. So yeah, John Thune said, oh my God, because he had no consultation with this. This was just the White House. After John Thune making a deal that was much better than what they just got, making a deal with Chuck Schumer and the Democrats to do this very thing that they just did, except it involves some additional gimmies that the Democrats were going to give them so the Republicans could keep face. Thune just said, fuck it. Because he didn't even get a phone call that Trump was going to do this. If he had, Thune would have explained to him, you can't do that. Remember, I keep saying narratives are everything. The narrative they've been selling to their base is, look at what the Democrats are doing to us. And this ends that. Instantaneously, it was over. And that's the chaos that's going on. That's the idiocy that's going on inside. Normally, you have a chief of staff that has a dual role, both policy and politics. They understand. So they'll communicate. They'll coordinate strategy. You can tell this is utter chaos. None of that is going on. Well, what caused the Trump administration to panic and say, the Trump regime just sheer panic and say, okay, I got to end this now? Well, two things. One, they were stupid enough to think that putting ICE in the airports, this is how incompetent they are. They actually thought that would do something. Oh, look, we're doing something, and that backfired badly. We talked about this in the last show. TSA is furious. You're slapping the TSA agents that you're barely holding on to right in the face because you're putting agents that you are paying to stand around in the airports while TSA agents aren't getting paid. And these agents over here aren't doing shit but standing around and looking at their phones, handing out water bottles that nobody will take because it's from ICE. It was a horrible look. It was a horrible narrative. They're that incompetent, that stupid. They couldn't see this coming. I mean, it was just a disaster. So not only have they lost the immigration argument, not only have they lost, just domestic confidence, exactly, scabs that are useless. This just blew up in their face. So Trump, knowing that there's a much bigger deal cooking, what is going on in Iran is disastrous for the Trump regime. It just is. Again, they didn't think about it before they got in it. They thought it was going to be just like the last time Netanyahu talked him into bombing Iran. Well, our adversaries were ready for it. So let's get into it. Let's start talking about the big picture and where this is going. Trump tried to do his taco thing, and it has failed miserably. He tried to do his thing where he does an announcement that's meaningless, just like the last time. He just made it up. There are talks going on, and basically the entire world said, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Nobody's buying this shit. Nobody cares that he came out and said this. What he did here is, remember when he said, oh, we're having great peace talks with Iran, so we're going to extend the deadline 5 more days into April. We're going to extend it into April. Well, let's take a look at how the world responded to this. All right. Well, Wall Street didn't believe it. Wall Street didn't believe it. The Dow is crashing. Forgive me. Had a little cough there. I don't know where that throat tickle came from. Forgive me. And remember, after the last time Trump tried that taco maneuver where he said, "Oh, peace talks are great," oil plunged. West Texas Intermediate plunged to under $90 a barrel briefly and was hovering around $90 a barrel. Well, it's skyrocketing again. It's up to 90, almost $98 a barrel now. Brent crude is well over. Um, Here, let's look it up. Let's look at some of the see where Brent is right now and some of the other baskets that are. Yeah, we're at almost 98 for West Texas Intermediate. Brent crude is well over 110 again. Nobody is buying this. Nobody is buying this. Merban is the oil that you buy directly out of the Middle East is, up over 120. OPEC basket is 116, almost 120. This is just Dubai's. We're selling at 130 out of Dubai. The Indian basket is almost 160 a barrel. So oil is creeping back up again, surging again. Nobody bought the taco bullshit. Why? Well, it doesn't help when you say, "Oh, peace talks are going great," and you're lying out your ass when the person sitting across the table from you is saying that's complete bullshit. Then you got a he said conversation where they got to figure out who's telling the truth. Who's lying? Who's telling the truth? One side says, "Oh yeah, we're having peace talks." Behind it, can't tell you who because they just don't want to admit it. We're having great peace talks, and over here you've got your enemy mocking you openly and saying, "No, we're not having peace talks. We're not. There's nothing going on that even resembles peace talks." We talked about their demands in the last show and how there's just no reconciling the two. So that kind of gave people a cue that, the Trump regime was lying. Why anybody on Wall Street would believe anything that they're saying is beyond me. But it appears that we got a lot of people in, the big banks and stuff that are really that stupid. But not this time around. Because at the exact same time, Trump is trying to taco again and say, "Oh, we're going to extend the ceasefire until April. We're going to move in it. Things are going so great." Yeah, then why are you sending 10,000 more troops? Why do you have an invasion force built? Nobody bought it. Nobody bought it. Nobody is buying it. And it looks like, we're invading Iran. We're invading Iran. So let's talk a little bit again about why we ended up in this in the first place. This is also, again, Iran's response. Iran's response has been very direct and very open. Remember, they put an offer on the table before Trump made his first threats about blowing up all, their nuclear power plants and all their power plants. They put an offer on the table that said, "Hey, if you're not related or sending oil to the US or Israel, your ships can go through." Then that offer got immediately yanked off the table when Trump made his threats. Well, Iran, wanting to seem like the grown-ups in the room when Trump was talking about there's peace talks and yada, 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 Iran put that offer back on the table. So in response to Trump saying, "Oh, this peace talks are going so great that we're going to extend the ceasefire. And Iran has been saying openly, what ceasefire? There is no ceasefire. There are no negotiations. Don't know what the fuck you're talking about. To make a point, Iran pulled that offer back off the table again. No one gets through the Strait of Hormuz, period. Period. Nobody. Any oil tanker we see trying to go through the Strait of Hormuz, we fire at. And that's where we're at. That's where we're at. On that front, that's where we're at. So what is the Trump regime trying to do right now? Well, Marco Rubio is at the G7, hat in hand, begging Europe to get involved in this. Absolutely begging them to get involved in this. And this is Europe's response. That's happening as we speak. They just had the G7 conference. Remember, different sides of the globe, different timing. So they've already had their conferences at the G7. Now they're in the after meetings, and you kind of find out, because when you go to the after meetings where they're still pressing, you get the leaks that come out about the discussions. The different countries will release information, strategically release information to the press so that everybody knows where they're standing. This is what's coming out of Europe at the G7. This isn't looking promising. Unless somehow little Marco can convince everybody in Europe that we suddenly know what the fuck we're doing, doesn't look promising. When the people you're trying to convince to go into harm's way with you, to send their sons and daughters into harm's way, to get deeply involved in your screw up, respond with, I have no idea what they are trying to do. Allies say Trump sends mixed signals in Iran because they have no idea what they're trying to do. The Trump regime thought that this was just going to be like last time. They were going to bomb some shit. It was going to distract us all from the Epstein files, from their immigration disasters, from the fact that they're murdering people on the streets. They've completely lost the immigration narrative, which has them terrified. They thought it would just be, hey, bombing out, and then they would lie. They just like they lied about the last time they did it and said we destroyed their nuclear facilities and their nuclear capabilities. But then they're selling us now that they're doing this because they need to destroy their capabilities. And by the way, those missiles they're firing at us are really freaking accurate because they're coming out of those facilities. Wait a minute, I thought you said you destroyed them. Oh, well, we did. And Trump actually said this. Trump actually said this when confronted with that point, that didn't you lie? Didn't you just lie to us the last time you did this, because you said you have to attack Fordham, you have to attack, all their different nuclear facilities. I thought you said you destroyed them. Trump actually said, well, there's equipment. You can dig. And that's what they did. They just kind of dug and got back down to it after we destroyed. Well, that's not destroyed, stupid. Are you trying to think that we're as stupid as you are? That's not destroyed. So you lied. And that's where where we're at, folks. I mean, that's what's going on. Everybody is looking at this stuff and what's going on, and nobody's buying it. Well, now let's dig a little bit more into the peripherals of this, not what the press is focusing on, not what they're telling us, hey, look at this. We want you to think about this. Let's look at the other things. You know, in the last show, we talked about Israel's invasion of Lebanon and that Israel intends to snatch land from Lebanon. That's, getting a reaction. That is getting a reaction. And what I want to talk about for a minute is the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu is just as stupid as Donald Trump. He has just as much hubris as Donald Trump. He really thinks he's like a puppet master and a 4D chess master, and he's not. And this is blowing up in his face. It is blowing up in his face. One of the things that Benjamin Netanyahu thought he was going to do in all of this, he convinced Trump to do this because he thought, oh man, this is going to hurt Iran, which is good for us. Yay, we want that to happen. Economically, militarily, it's going to hurt Iran. That's good. But he also thought, hey, while Iran is distracted with the U.S., we'll invade Lebanon. And because the U.S. is here and fighting is going on, nobody will do shit. But there's a bonus. See, Israel's greatest geopolitical foe, their biggest, for the lack of a way to put it, the enemy in the region isn't Iran. It's not. Iran is somewhat isolated in the region. The Saudis don't like Iran, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, Iraq. Iraq's relationships are, warming to Tehran and Iran, but they don't really love them either. Hell, Iran and Pakistan were just shooting at each other. So who does Iran have in the region that is a strong ally? Well, basically they're limited to Armenia. Let's go to the map. They're limited to Armenia. Let me back out so you get an idea here. I'll take the topography away as well so you can see the borders more clearly. This is Israel, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Iran. You see which borders: Turkmenistan, Pakistan, Afghanistan. But it also borders Azerbaijan and Armenia. Iran loves Armenia, and Armenia loves Iran. And here's why. Tehran has figured out a way to get around their sanctions. If they want to sell any goods beyond oil, they sell them through Armenia. You just ship your goods up there, slap a Made in Armenia label on it, and then you can sell it. Sanctions free. Armenia, which has a they're completely landlocked. They're surrounded by people that don't like them. Turkey hates Armenia. Georgia doesn't like Armenia. Azerbaijan hates Armenia. And then you've got Iran to the south. Their economy suffers. Geopolitically, they're in danger. I mean, imagine your neighborhood, your house, you're there, and then, every neighbor on every side freaking hates you, but you got one neighbor across the street that wants to sell you Amway. That is where Armenia is. Now imagine you're Turkey. This was a bonus that Netanyahu thought he was going to get. He thought he was going to cripple Turkey. See, Turkey's had a problem. We talked about the neo-Ottoman movement in Turkey. And the fact that Erdogan has been very clear about the fact that I'm going to rebuild the Ottoman Empire. That is what I'm going to do. And he's been working for it. He's been working towards it. Now, Turkey is at odds with Iran. They share a border, but they're at odds with each other. They have agreements to buy energy, and by energy, I mean Iran sells oil and gas to Turkey, and Turkey in turn sells electricity to Iran. But other than that, they're competitive. Both of them want to be the big dog in the region. This is not a tight relationship. It is not. Then you add on top of it that Turkey has very, 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 very strong relationships. Let's go back to that map for a second. I'll pull up another one. I closed that one. I'll pull up Turkey, so that'll be highlighted. Turkey has very, 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 very strong relations. Here's Turkey with Azerbaijan. In fact, it is very common for Azerbaijan and Turkey to refer to their relationship as two governments, one state. Literally the same state. And this is mutual. They both feel this way. Two governments, one state. That's how tight Azerbaijan and Turkey are. Now, this is where it gets a little complicated. Azerbaijan and Iran hate each other. Absolutely hate each other. Georgia, to the north of Armenia here, Georgia, they're very standoffish with Russia. They trade with Russia. They don't love Russia. Russia, throughout all the Soviet years, pretty much dominated Georgia. So Georgia and Turkey have a good working relationship. Not anywhere near like Azerbaijan and Turkey, because Georgia is a Christian nation. Azerbaijan is another Muslim nation. They share a kinship. They share not just religious heritage, but actual genetic heritage, going back to the old Ottoman Empire and before. So you've got Turkey, who's got a great relationship with Azerbaijan, and we've talked about Baku and their access to the Caspian oil fields. That is Turkey's grand advantage in this relationship, in this regional tension. Iran, they've got oil. Turkey also has access to oil via a strong ally. There is a third country, and they refer to themselves as the Three Brothers. That's how tight this relationship is. They do. All three countries, they refer to each other as the three brothers. They have military cooperation, economic cooperation. They are swimming in unison. You're talking about a relationship like the US and Canada used to have before that fucking idiot Trump got reelected. That tight, folks. And that third country is Pakistan. They have military cooperation, economic cooperation. So you understand Turkey has tremendous amount of influence. They have an economic problem, though. Previously, Turkey's monetary policy, their strategic interests have not aligned with the EU or the United States. It's been a complicated political relationship, on top of the fact that Erdogan, in order to cement his leadership, really engaged in some shady economic shit in the past. He just did. That's the past. They have steadily reformed and steadily improved their credit rating, which is giving them more access to foreign loans, making them cheaper than what they once were. It used to cost Turkey an absolute well, it still does. They don't have a great rating. They've got a BB rating, which is junk status, but it's better than it used to be, and it's trending the right direction. Fitch, Moody's, and Standard & Poor's are all giving glowing reviews of Turkey and their reforms. As they lower their debt, their credit ratings are incrementally improving. Now, I know this is a lot to take in. I know it is. But you know what? Everything's complicated. Everything is complicated. On top of that, on top of economic reforms, Erdogan has been in a hard press with individual EU countries to improve their economic relationships. He's also worked very closely with China. China and Turkey have a very tight relationship. These are some of the things that we're talking about. This is the Fiat Gia. I want just to give you a few specific examples. This is the most popular car in all of Turkey. This is the Fiat Gia. Gia, pardon me. Forgive me, I've got a little tickle in my throat. I can't get to go away all of a sudden. I've got a cough for a second. Forgive me, I'm going to mute this. Sorry about that. All right. The Agea is the most popular car in Turkey. And it's a Fiat, which is owned by Stellantis, but it is made right here in Bursa, Turkey. Our European audience, you'll recognize that car as the Tipo, the Fiat Tipo. It's made right here in Bursa, Turkey. So yeah, Turkey's been doing this. Turkey has been saying, hey, come build shit in our country. We want to buy your stuff anyways. We've got labor. We're being good fiscally. Remember how we talked about, just let's put a pin in this, let's pause for a second and put a pin in this. Remember how we were talking about Hunter Biden and what his job was, how he would work with different countries and companies as a consultant. And what he did was he would get them to get their books in order, get them to pass legislation, to clean up their way of doing business so they can do more business in the West. This is exactly what Turkey's been doing. This is exactly what Turkey's been doing. So they made a deal with Fiat to build a factory in Bursa. They've been diversifying their economy. They have an upper middle class economy. And their government fiscal outlook is improving. Okay? And it's not just with Europe. This is one of the best-selling SUVs in Turkey. This is the Cherry Tipo, or pardon me, Tiggo. The Tipo is the Egea sedan in Europe. It's the Egea in Turkey. It's the Tipo, same car, different label. If it's sold in the EU, it's the Tipo. If it's sold in Turkey, it's the Egea. This is the Tiggo. The Tiggo. It's made by a company called Chery, Chery. That is a Chinese company that specializes in making hybrids and electric vehicles. This is a hybrid electric vehicle. It is one of the most popular SUVs, more popular SUVs in Turkey. Why? China is investing in Turkey. China is building a $1 billion factory here in Samsun, Turkey, on the Black Sea, which will give them access to the Dardanelles and the Bosphorus Strait, and they can ship directly to Europe. Smart move for China, great move for Turkey. They're expected to break ground this year on this factory in Samsun. So stick with me. I'm just trying to give you an idea of the relationships that Turkey has been building and what they've been doing and why Israel and Netanyahu has tried to shank them with this idiotic war. One more. We're going to look at one more vehicle. And the reason I'm looking at vehicles and talking to you about vehicles, there are other products. There are pharmaceuticals. There are advanced business machinery. There's all kinds of different products, but people can really wrap their heads around cars. They get cars. Everybody buys and sells cars. You understand the relationship there. I mean, we've had a rah-rah relationship with, used to be the big three here. Now it's the big two because Stellantis is no longer an American company. They bought Chrysler. Daimler bought it first, but yeah, you get it. You get where we're going with this. This is why I'm talking about cars. So just stick with me. This is, and I love this car, and this makes me angry. I mean, it really makes me angry that we can't get these cars here in the States. So many great cars out there that you cannot buy here. This is the T-Roc from Volkswagen. Now, they don't have a factory in Turkey. They were negotiating for one. That kind of stalled, but it is one of the more popular SUVs. This is a gas SUV. It is one of the more popular SUVs in Turkey. I'm showing you this so that just to highlight the relationships that Turkey has. It is a Volkswagen, a German company, but it's made here. It's made in Lisbon, Portugal. Built in Lisbon, Portugal. Portugal really has a strong desire to see Turkey do well. They're buying their products. Germany has a strong desire to see Turkey do well because this is what Turkey is doing. They're diversifying their economy. They're Europeanizing their economy while still maintaining their Muslim heritage. Which is giving them a decisive advantage in relationships in that region. They have made excellent strategic moves in securing their energy. They have no energy problems whatsoever until, and this is where we're talking about Netanyahu being too smart by half. If you're Israel and you're Benjamin Netanyahu, you see what's going on in Turkey. You know Turkey hates your ass. They do. And they have been in a proxy war for some time. And let me explain that. Before I do, I want to read some of these comments. So I don't want to get too far behind on the comments. I do apologize. Stick with me. We're going to talk about the proxy war that has been going on with Turkey and Israel first, and then we'll expand where this is going and how this is blown up in Israel's face. Sharon, thank you for gifting the memberships. I really appreciate you. Rich, very generous, 10 memberships out there. Folks, if you're watching this in replay or if you're watching out and you don't have a membership, these are free. These are gifted to you from members of our community. All you have to do is hit the join button. You may have to change your settings in YouTube to allow yourself to receive gifts, but they're free. Just pick them up. Hit the join button and pick them up. They're out there. Omniscient Sphinx gifted 5 memberships. Thank you, man. Y'all are so generous. I'm so grateful to have y'all here. Y'all are incredible. E.T., especially when they spend it all and still lose. Yeah, I hear you. Sue back. Hey, Paul, what can you tell us about the drones over Barksdale? Nothing at this point. Nothing. I can't tell you anything about that at this point. That's one of those things we just got to really find out more about. They're looking into it. They don't know whose they were exactly, or could be foreign intelligence. It could be stupid teenage kids. We don't know at this point. Jeremy Breeden, thank you for the support, brother. I appreciate you always being here. Skeet Sarah, happy Friday to the Resistors. Happy Friday to you. Ren, thank you for the support. Welcome, Vegas, new member. Welcome. McBastage, Donnie Dwindles is Yormander that can't even find his own tail to gobble. Yep. Colleen Sierra gifted 10 memberships. Incredibly grateful. Very generous. There are memberships out there for you to be had. Shifty Lincoln, Russia is helping Iran target military assets and our soldiers. Trump lifts sanctions on Russia and oil and does nothing. Treason at the highest level possible. Yeah, the amount of stupidity. We're not even, this show's complex enough. We're not even adding Russia into the mix yet. But yeah, Russia is giving drones to Iran because Iran is having a problem manufacturing. They're being bombed. They're having a problem manufacturing enough drones to stay in this fight. So Russia's just giving them to them. Iran gave Russia the plans on how to build their Shahed drones, and Russia's building them and sending them back to Iran, as well as giving them first-class satellite targeting information. And we just lifted sanctions on Russia because Trump is more afraid of the political fallout from rising oil prices than he is actually seriously trying to win this conflict. it's a disaster. In every aspect, it's a disaster. ET, you need to cut out this whole TSA segment and post it as a separate video, not a short, so that people can be playing them on their phones in line at the airports. Let's fact back them with the segment. I do need to start doing that. I need to start actually dividing the show up into chapters so that people can link out the chapters. I'll start making that happen. I will start making that happen. Skeet Sayer, we focus on Trump. The entire party is guilty. Look at 47-year argument they all use for Iran. Yep. Michael Antonson, that proves that the Republicans and Democrats are not the same. They are not the same. Good point, my friend. Omniscient Sphinx. Trump thought it would be the Gulf War, but he is getting the Vietnam War minus the help. They really thought it was going to be just like the last time they did this. They'd bomb in and out. This was just idiocy. Short-sighted idiocy. Skeet's hair. Guess what groceries are going to cost in about 2 months? The price of oil impacts everything. Yep, and we've talked about it before, the lag time. We've talked about it before, the lag time between the increase in energy prices and whatnot, and it takes a few months to filter into your costs. We have not yet even really seen the effects of this war yet. And groceries are already high. Dying Bree Garrett, hey Paul, here with you as always. Glad to see you here, brother. That is why one of the reasons Trump is so panicked about this. Chandra Patton, most despicable person in my lifetime. As my grandma used to say, he's like a cat covering up shit. Yep. That's a great way to put that. That is a great way to put that. Peter Campbell, Iraq is a landmass in square miles equal to California. We sent 160,000 ground troops to Iran, is the size of Alaska, and we're sending 20,000. Yep. This makes no sense. They think they're just going to take Karg Island and that Iran is going to have to fold. And I'm about to explain to you why that's not true. Nicola, Operation Epstein Fury. Don't stop talking about the Epstein files. Amen. Crafty Ash Gardner gifted 5 memberships. Very, very generous of you. Quantrix, China is going to be right next door to Trump's America after Canada's New Deal. Mexico has already granted access to Chinese trade, surrounded. Yeah, we're going to talk about China here in just a minute. Mike Daly, the Dim. Morning, brother. Working today. We'll need to listen to the replay. Whether in business or politics, relationships are everything. Democrats forge them. MAGA destroys them. Vote blue for free trade and a better world. Amen, Mike. Well said, sir. Very generous of you. Thank you. Lori Yates, thank you for keeping us updated. Glenn, super generous. Appreciate you. Chiron, welcome. Glad to see the new members. Gin up the base. Texas Paul, your thoughts on the Maine Democratic Senate primary? Plattner is the obvious choice and way out in front of, yet Schumer is backing Janet Mills. Janet Mills she's a longtime Democrat. She's not an unknown. It would be normal to have Democrats backing Janet Mills. Graham Plattner is getting a lot of grassroots support, although he does have some problematic issues. Some people are afraid he's going to turn into another John Fetterman. Some people are, but we don't know. I mean, I'm not going to label that guy that way. He may turn out to be a great Democrat. That's the thing about primaries. It may seem like an anti-party thing, but it's not. Both these people are Democrats. Either way, we end up with a Democrat that's leading in the polls. Imagine, new poll shows Plattner leading Mills in Maine, U.S. Senate Democratic primary. Yeah, absolutely. And when this is over, we close ranks and we support whoever gets on that ballot. And I just want to warn everybody about this. There are right-wing groups, if Plattner wins, that are ready, poised to point out all the issues with Plattner. He's had a problematic tattoo. He's got some baggage, and they are 100% ready to try to divide us after that election. If Plattner wins, he's our guy. If Mills wins, she's our gal. That's just the way it is. We don't let them do that shit anymore. Littlewigs, a report came out that said because of this war, inflation will be 4.2% highest in a long time. Yep. Fact. The Hen House, 1981. Was Kash Patel's email hacked by an Iranian hack group? I don't think so, but maybe. I haven't heard anything on that yet. Whiskey Pete is dumber than a rock. He is. He is. Agent Cajun John. Glad to see you here, brother. Gifted super generous 20 memberships, man. John is giving you a membership, folks. Take him up on it. Take him up on it. Catherine Suffocatus, please change the color of your mouse. Yeah, it would help. It would. It would. Angelina Valdez, Iran is getting over 1 million troops ready. Yeah, this isn't going to be easy. This isn't going to be easy. Catherine Ryan, yeah, but Elizabeth Warren is backing Plattner. Yep. This is not an inter-party war, folks. This is just primaries. There are contested, hard-fought primaries going on around the country. Sunbathing in Chernobyl. What a name. Love it, man. Thanks for the big support. I appreciate you coming out with the big guns. Donnie Dumpy Pants wants his "We Got Him" moment so bad. And Zelensky is getting nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize in the meantime. Yep. Crafty ass Gardner, just like they are now doing with James Tallarico, fake left horseshit post. Get the fuck out with that crap. Yep. And by the way, to go back to this comment, Volodymyr Zelensky is in Saudi Arabia today, and he is helping Saudi Arabia with their drone defense policies. He is developing a military cooperation agreement that will allow Ukrainians that are experienced, have been fighting Russia in their drone attacks, to train Saudis to defend themselves against drone attacks. That's what Zelensky is doing right now, today, as you and I talk. He's standing in Saudi Arabia, hammering that deal out. Wendy Bowman. Bowman or Bowman? Because even B-O-W-M-A could be either one. You got to tell me. If it's Bow, as in B-O-W, as in Bowman, give me a capital. Just throw it in the comments. I'll find it there. If it's Bowman, shit, I don't know how to just B-O man, Bow man. I'll know that way. For the cousin jar, I've run out of cuss words. Thank you, Winnie. Thank you for the huge support, and I definitely want to get your name right. So please let me know. All right. Caught up on all the comments. I want to get back to what we were talking about with Turkey. Turkey strategically was vulnerable in their economy. This is one of the things that Netanyahu was calculating on. This war would drive up energy prices. That would definitely hurt Turkey. Their economy is particularly vulnerable to that because they import all of their oil, almost all of their oil. Huge portion of their oil. They are not a very big domestic producers. What you're getting the point I'm making. That would cripple their economic reforms and economic growth. This is blowing up in Netanyahu's face. This is absolutely blowing up in his face. This is ricocheting and hitting him right between the eyes. This is what I'm talking about. Turkey, like I said, have reformed their policies in order to protect the lira, which has been, it's a problem for Turkey. Inflation is a problem. It is a problem with any growing economy. Inflation becomes a problem. They've evolved into a middle class to upper middle class economy that causes inflation. It just does. I mean, we could do a whole show on talking about the evolution of a, poor to a middle class economy. It just happens. Look at what happened. Japan went through the same thing when they rebuilt after World War II, rebuilt their economy. They immediately went into inflation. Immediately. Goods in Japan were very expensive. It just happens. It's part of the growth. But they are sticking to their reforms, and they brilliantly outmaneuvered Netanyahu here with this move right here. Part of their reforms is building up reserves, and part of the stability they built it up, they use their tactics to give their government economics more stability was in reserves. They bought gold, a lot of gold. So they have it. I mean, they've got it. In order to protect the lira, they sold gold for cash on the markets. They ended up moving about $8 billion in gold out of their treasury. And I know it seems counterintuitive. Well, wait a minute. They sold gold. How's that going to help? Well, stick with me. I'm going to explain this. Part of it they sold for cash on the markets. Took that money and bought lira. Because additional energy costs, it's just baked into the cake. Their currency was starting to devalue. They've already had a problem with it devaluing over the last several years. They have an inflation problem on their hands. To head this off from being the gut punch that Netanyahu wanted it to be, they sold a huge amount of gold, took part of it in cash that they sold on the markets, and bought their own currency back. By pulling their own currency out of the market, it increases its value. That's just a standard Econ 101, how to protect your currency's value move. They took gold and did that. The other thing they did, and this is the brilliant part, the absolute brilliant part, is they took some of that gold and they swapped it with the EU for euros. They swapped it. They just, instead of a sale, they said, okay, we've got X billion dollars in gold. Give us your paper money. We will hand you gold. So now, remember I told you about all those factories, and this is where Netanyahu thought he was really going to just shiv them. All of those factories and all of that economic expansion and high-end expansion, pharmaceuticals, again, you're talking about equipment manufacturing, all of that involves importing materials and parts, and of course, oil. If Netanyahu could devalue the lira by driving up energy costs, that would absolutely cripple Turkey's economy. So what did Erdogan do? He traded billions in gold for hard currency that isn't the lira. So now he can buy that stuff in Europe's own hard currency, which insulates him from the inflation, keeps his economy running smoothly. Brilliant, right? I mean, you've got to, whether you like Turkey, don't like Turkey, or whatever, you've got to look at this and go, wow, smart move. Smart move. Here's the upshot of it. And I want to put a pin in that. Okay. We're talking about Israel and Turkey. I want to put a pin in that. There are other people that have beef with Turkey. Ukraine is one of them. Because Turkey, one of the problems that they've had with the EU is Turkey has not been sanctioning Russian oil. They've just said, no, we're not going to play that. We're not going to participate, which is really pissing Ukraine off. So Ukraine took the opportunity to coordinate at the exact same time that Turkey's energy prices were increasing. Ukraine did this. You know those really cool ocean drones that we've been checking out? You know, those black drones that just, sit at the water level. They're really difficult to see. They shot one of Turkey's oil tankers right in the ass. It's actually a Chinese-owned oil tanker, but it's operated by Turkey. They just picked up about 1 million barrels of oil from Russia, and before they could hit Turkish territorial waters, Ukraine shot this thing in the ass with a drone. Unfortunately, for Ukraine, they didn't succeed in crippling the ship. And this is actually the ship going through the Bosphorus Straits, heading for repairs. But Turkey's furious about that. Just absolutely furious about that, because they're doing everything they can to keep their energy prices down, which they're succeeding at. This is another thing to kind of keep in mind when we're looking at Turkey's overall position. These are the pipelines, oil and natural gas pipelines that flow into Turkey. This is a major one. The Baku Tbilisi Ceyhan pipeline. Ceyhan right here is a huge oil export port for Turkey, Iraq, Iran, and of course, Azerbaijan here on the Caspian Sea with access to the Caspian Sea fields, all ship oil through. And this is one of the reasons Georgia has felt more comfortable at raising the middle finger at Russia, because they are part of this consortium, this new regional power. None of this goes through the Strait of Hormuz or the Persian Gulf. This is Caspian oil flowing straight out through Turkey via pipeline and through the port of Ceyhan. And Turkey's making bank off of it. Absolutely making bank off of it. This is what keeps the relationship with Iran stable, even though they're competitive. Again, Iran is selling oil through Turkey, sanction free, because Turkey just is telling the EU, look, you don't want to give me sanctions, you don't want to give me full member status in the EU, then screw. Because remember, this part of Turkey is in Europe. This part may be the Levant and Middle East, but this part is in Europe. It's the Asian nation that straddles both. It's the nation that straddles both Europe and Asia. Yeah. So energy-wise, they're stable. The price increases affect them because oil markets are global, but they're not hurting to actually get oil. But you know who is hurting? Who thought this was going to be quick? Who thought that he would just tie Iran up with the United States and give him time to move, sweep into Lebanon and take some real estate and all that good stuff. And oh man, it wouldn't, you know, it'd be all good. I would shiv Turkey and their economy. We would look great. We would look great. Yeah, no, this is blowing up in their face. Absolutely blowing up in their face. Israel is spending $3 to $4 billion a day on this conflict. And their credit rating, they're getting warnings about. Fitch, Moody's has already moved to cut Israel's credit rating. And issued warnings to them that if you don't straighten this shit out, if you don't straighten your books out, we're going to downgrade you to junk status. Israel is in nowhere near the fiscal shape to weather that. Because when they downgrade their credit ratings, the cost of borrowing explodes. And it can conceivably cut them off from European markets, depending on how bad it gets. So, if you're Iran, you've got the Trump administration bleeding support because of inflationary problems. You've got Israel heading down into a fiscal black hole. All you've got to do is survive and keep this conflict going. And both of those things happen. Now, I know there's a lot of people that are going to say, wait a minute. This is crazy. Why would they allow themselves to get the shit blown out of them? Why would they do all of this? Well, before we talk about, again, the wider macro version of this, let's just talk about Iran themselves. What are the two choices that we're facing there? We either walk and stop this shit because it is absolutely destroying. We already had a shaky economy because of Trump's idiotic tariffs. We were already, again, shivving the world economy because of Trump's idiotic tariffs. That was before any of this. Now we're seeing the specter of rapid inflation while our economy shrinks. Stagflation. We're looking at stagflation. If you're Iran, you know at some point they've got to walk. Even if they invade, which is the other option, we invade. Can Iran live through it? If it was just Iran, no. If we take Karg Island which is the stupidity that is going on with the Trump regime right now, is they think, oh, we'll take Karg Island, we'll take Iran's ability to sell oil, and they'll just collapse. If it was just Iran, that would be true. But it's not. It's not. It's not. We have a geopolitical adversary that is sitting back and they're winning in all of this. They are winning in all of this. They hate Israel. They hate us. well, I wouldn't say hate. Hate is too strong of a word. We're their primary competitor on the world stage geopolitically. So not only does Iran win if they can just hang in there and survive because it destroys our economy. Trump at some point is going to have to taco. He's going to have to chicken out. He is. This war will absolutely decimate us. We cannot afford it. We cannot afford another endless war. That is just fact. Even though these idiots in Washington, D.C. and the Trump regime are marching us into another endless, ungodly war. But I tell you who Iran also has a really fantastic relationship with, and that's China. And that's China. And I love that you folks were so far ahead of me. I love that. I love that. If you're not watching the comments, if you're not watching the comments section, folks, you're missing it. If you're watching this on replay, you've got to have that chat panel open. This is the smartest, the most informed group of people anywhere on the internet. You have got to watch this with the chat panel open. Yeah. China is the reason that Iran doesn't just fold if we take Karg Island. They don't. And Israel cannot leave this war. They are stuck. Turkey has them rope-a-doped. All Turkey has to do is, again, weather this with their economy intact. Because Turkey is not spending any money in this conflict. Israel is spending $3 to $4 billion a day. So Turkey, if they can just keep their economy intact, ends up watching Israel collapse economically, becoming nobody in the region. They end up watching us have to pull back our support of Israel because we are flying into broke. We cannot afford another boots on the ground, never ending, treasury destroying war. We just can't. We just can't. Which means for China to end up in the absolute best situation because they have an incredibly strong relationship with Azerbaijan. They've got an incredibly strong relationship with Turkey. Because while we're jacking Turkey around with arms sales and backing one of Turkey's greatest geopolitical threats is Greece. They have very hot conflicts over maritime borders because there are gas fields, natural gas fields in the stretch of ocean in the Ionian Sea that are in between Greece and Turkey, and both of them claim them. They're fighting over resources. And we jack Turkey around left and right, so much so that they've gone to South Korea to buy their next tanks. They're not buying our Abrams tank. They were going to buy Abrams tanks, but they're not now. They're buying the South Korean Black Panthers, which are arguably better than the Abrams. But China has a fantastic relationship with Turkey. Why? This is a great article. It's from it's from Carnegie. I really invite you to read this article. It talks about the way China does business around the world, and it points out a really interesting fact. Can anybody tell me who China has a security agreement with. We've got like NATO. We've got security agreements with dozens and dozens of countries. You attack them, we're there, man. I'll tell you. No, not even North Korea. Not even North Korea. Everybody assumes that. That is not true. That is not true. Now, if you invaded North Korea, China would see it as a threat. Nope, no security agreement with Russia either. They've got an economic agreement, but BRICS is not any kind of military agreement at all. It's just economic. Nobody, not Turkey, not Azerbaijan, not India, they're spending money on no world conflicts, and nobody's asking them for it. If you want Chinese arms, you have to go, it's like a supermarket. You just go buy them. It's not like Russia that is saying, hey, man, here, Iran, have a ton of drones because we got a security agreement. China doesn't do that. China just does business. And that's why none of this is blowing back on them. And the people that they get along with really well and have deep financial ties to, they all want this to continue. They all do better if we get rope-a-doped into a long-term war. Turkey and Iran both benefit. Turkey via winning their I guess you could call it a Cold War, but it's hot. Let me explain to you. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. Israel and Turkey have been fighting a proxy war with each other in Syria and now in Lebanon. Turkey backs and supplies arms to all of these groups in northern Syria. And just to give you an idea where I talk about the Neo-Ottoman situation, the Neo-Ottoman policies, Turkey claims historic ownership of Aleppo, Syria. They also claim historic ownership of Mosul. That is part of their Neo-Ottoman spiel. Hey, technically, we own that shit. Right now, Turkey is funding all of the groups that are battling Ahmed al-Shara in Syria for control of these regions. This is Turkey, effectively. All of northern Syria is effectively Turkey. All of the militant groups in this region all get their arms, their money, their support from Turkey. And this is what part of the whole Neo-Ottoman discussion that goes on that doesn't come through our media is that Turkey doesn't need to move borders for this to happen. Israel knows this. Turkey doesn't have to move borders for this to happen. Right now, northern Syria is now part of the Ottoman Empire. Northwestern Iraq is quickly becoming that. You have, again, Azerbaijan. They say, you know, one state, two governments. Both countries say this. Turkey doesn't need to wrap its border around Azerbaijan. It's already part of the Ottoman Empire. So, yeah, let's just step back for just a second. You want to know what's going to happen? Look at the interests of everybody around. Everybody was so freaked out about Iran. But what was the situation before everybody got stupid? The Strait of Hormuz was open. Gulf states were shipping out their oil. Everything was fine. Then Netanyahu convinced Trump that this was a good idea because he wanted to expand into Lebanon. He wanted to cripple Iran and their ability to support Lebanon. He didn't big picture this at all. He thought, hey, bonus, we'll cripple Turkey. We'll drive up energy prices for a while. That'll cripple Turkey and throw a monkey wrench in their financial negotiations with the EU, which are already a little tenuous because, the whole sanctions thing that Turkey won't participate in. But yeah, China said, what do we do in this situation? How do we benefit? What is the best possible outcome? And yeah, I love you people so much. Saudi Arabia too. 100%. Saudi Arabia Mohammed bin Salman is not a big thinker. He isn't. He thought, okay, this is going to take the Iran threat off the table because we have a problem down in Yemen. Iran supports the Houthis down in Yemen, and we're fighting the Houthis. So, yeah, let's just take Iran off the table. Nobody big pictured this before they did this stupidity. Everybody thought it was going to be just like last time. You'll punch Iran in the face and that'll be it. Nobody thought, well, what if they've got a plan? Iran is mocking us today. They just released, again, more stuff on social media. Would you like to guess what the Iran embassy has been putting out today? They put out both a music video and a meme that says, come closer. Come closer. So let's wrap this up with what are our options? And where do those options leave us? Trump tacos, just packs his shit and leaves, comes home, declares victory, in which a lot of the American media will just say, yeah, oh yeah, he won. Woo! Just like they did when he said, oh no, I destroyed all of their nuclear facilities last time. The American media was more than happy to print that lie. But where does that leave us? Well, right now, you've got Kuwait, you've got Qatar, you've got Bahrain, you've got everybody screaming at the top of their lungs that that can't happen because Iran has already told their neighbors when Trump quits, and he will quit, you will pay us a percentage. You want to get through the Strait of Hormuz? You will pay us. Every ship that goes through has an Iran tax on it now. and there will be nothing to stop them. And what does that mean for you? Everything's more expensive. Everything is more expensive, and it's not going away. So that's one option. Trump tacos out and goes home. The other option is, which is the more likely option, that we invade Iran, in which case China has us by the short hairs. Russia has us by the short hairs, both of which absolutely benefit by us getting stuck into a goddamn war in the Middle East. Iran will help Russia will help Iran out militarily, and we're letting them sell. We ripped away sanctions on Russia. They are making bank right now. They are selling oil all over the market, and they're going to take that money and they're going to build arms and they're going to give them to Iran to keep us tied up in that war, in part for payback for Ukraine. China won't send them arms because, again, China has no security agreements and they don't do that. They don't get suckered into these stupid wars. But China will send them humanitarian aid. China will send them currency to buy oil. China will help them rebuild any infrastructure we destroy. China will send them import goods to them. They'll keep Iran floating. They will. And we will beat our heads and beat our heads and beat our heads and beat our heads on that wall until we go flat broke. Because Netanyahu and Trump are idiots, and this world cannot afford them anymore. So, yeah, we've got to take power away from these people. We do. It is only with the combined might of Europe, Canada, Mexico, and the United States working in unison that we walk out of this where both the United States and Europe, because Europe is also in the exact, I want you to think about China again. Europe is also getting killed by these energy prices. It is going to take cooperation between Europe and the United States. But Europe doesn't want to cooperate with the Trump administration because the Trump administration is full of idiots. They lie, they have no plan, no strategy. No one wants to be tied to that idiot. We have to elect Democrats. We do. We have to elect Democrats. This very well could drag into 2028, where we're looking at hyperinflation. And this is why the Republicans are legitimately toying with radical things like getting rid of the filibuster and passing the SAVE Act and things that they know that will just blow up in their faces long term. But they're desperate. They know what they're looking at. That's why John Thune rolled over and said, look, no more of this shit in the airports. We're done with this. But yeah, folks, we've got to get it done. And part of that is going to No King's Day. Keep things moving, keep things motivated. Keep things motivated. Show up. This Saturday, near you, there is a No King's Day protest. I will be going to the one in Smith County. Encourage each other, keep each other motivated. Because I got to tell you, the Republicans aren't just going to roll over and die. They're not. We've got to beat them. We've got to beat them. And they do have a strategy, folks, even though it's a piss poor strategy. This is something that's about to happen. This is about something you're about to hear a lot about. This is Sheila Cherfelis McCormick. She is the Congresswoman that took over the late, great Alcee Hastings district. Everybody remember the legendary Alcee Hastings? Yeah, she was elected to succeed him. She and her brother ran a healthcare company. And we're talking about back during COVID when FEMA was just passing money out willy-nilly as fast as they could, trying to get this shit under control. And back in 2021, she got a $5 million overpayment. None of that is alleged. None of that is in dispute. She got a $5 million overpayment from FEMA. Well, FEMA later figured that out and they wanted their money back. Problem is, she didn't have it to give back. So they opened up an investigation, and this is where it becomes alleged. But yeah, the government alleges that they took the $5 million, they rinsed it through several bank accounts, and that her and her brother Edwin split it and spent it, and that she spent it on her campaign, and she spent it on luxury items. She bought a 3+ carat yellow diamond. She bought all kinds of luxury items. They're also accused of committing tax fraud. Her tax preparer is cooperating because her tax preparer has also been charged in conspiring to do this because they lied on their taxes about that $5 million overpayment. Now, the ethics committee, and you'll remember, and this is why I say this is part of the Republican plan. You know what, folks? If you're going to be a ride or die Democrat, if one of them's, if she's found guilty on this and it turns out that this is all true, these aren't just allegations, which I got to tell you, these kind of investigations, if you've ever talked to anybody that's ever a criminal investigator that's ever done these kind of investigations, these are not hard to prove. You just open the books up and you point to the line and say, this is where the money was transferred here, and then it was transferred here, and then it was transferred here. These are not witness testimony and shit like that. This is literally just, you hold up the books and you show them the numbers. I mean, this is a hard one to beat in court. But if these allegations are proven true, we would deserve to take it on the chin. She did it. We would deserve it. At that point, she did it. We would deserve to take the lumps for it. But this is what I mean by they're making it, this is Republican strategy. The ethics committee doesn't share this information. They don't. All you get out of the ethics committee is the final report. I want you to think about Matt Gaetz, who is diddling kids, raping underage girls, paying them for sex. None of that came out of the ethics committee until you got the final report. Now, the final report was a bombshell. It was. But the investigation and everything in the meantime was completely secret. Yeah, the Republicans aren't doing that this time. This ethics investigation, in which you have actual prosecutors screaming about this because they're like, you're tainting our prosecution when you do this. You're tainting the jury pool. Both the defense and the prosecution are pissed at the Republicans for doing this. They're going to hold public hearings during their ethics investigation. They're not going to do what they normally do, which is just have a private, behind closed doors investigation where they have, and again, this is Republicans blowing up norms, political norms. This is something both parties agree to. Whenever one of our own is screwed, we do these investigations in private, then we release the report. Republicans aren't going to do that. They want to hold a show trial. Now, the defense is pissed off because they're like, you're tainting the jury pool. You're not held to the same evidentiary standards as we are in court. You've got immunity. You can just say shit that's not true or not completely accurate. You're going to hold hearings that are going to taint the jury pool. The prosecution is really pissed about this because they're like, you're going to absolutely hand the defense all of our fucking evidence before we go to trial. You're basically going to just hand the case over to them, which, they've got to do in discovery anyways, but there's tactics to that. There are tactics to that. But the Republicans are in trouble, man. They know they're in trouble. Inflation is up. The economy's crashed. This stupid fucking war that nobody supports. So yeah, why not give the corporate media something that they really love, man? A salacious show trial. Let's have a salacious show trial. We'll break all of our norms, and that'll help us out because we'll say all Republicans are Congresswoman Phyllis McCormick. That's all Democrats. And this is not the only thing that they will do. Right now, there's a raft of gun legislation that the Republicans are going to push through. They're going to revive the gun debate. Look for it in about late June or July. 6 months is the window. 6 months is considered the election period. That's June. Late June, July. You're going to see a whole raft of gun legislation. You're going to see a whole raft of anti-trans legislation coming out of the federal government. You're going to see anti-abortion legislation coming out of the federal government. And then you're going to see the Republicans try to do these show trials. They think that is going to save them. How do you counter that? Put the fucking jersey on. In this independent shit, there's one governing party, the Democratic Party. Put the fucking jersey on. We'll fix our problems inside the House. I'm not saying you've got to accept the Democratic Party the way it is. You don't. You don't like John Fetterman? Primary that motherfucker. You don't like Chuck Schumer? Primary that motherfucker. But we have to elect Democrats. We cannot take the bait in these idiotic gunfights, these idiotic abortion fights. If it doesn't turn out our base, we don't engage. We don't do things to give their base the excuse to say, yeah, groceries are high and I'd lost my job. But you know, the Democrats, man, they want to turn my boy transgender. They will say stupid shit. They will. We have to know in advance what it is that they're going to say. We have to know in advance how they're going to say it. That's what I fucking do, people, every day. That's why I need you to hit the thumbs up button. That's why I need you to hit the subscribe button. I need you to join. Take one of the memberships are free. If you don't want to chip in to support the show, that's fine. Take one of the free memberships. I need you to go to the social. Do me a favor. What is your social media page of choice? Is it Blue Sky? Is it Threads? I don't do X, so X won't matter. I'm on Substack. I'm on Facebook. What is your, pop it up in the comments. What is your social media drug of choice? Yeah. YouTube, baby, YouTube. All right. No matter what that is, I see Facebook, I see Substack, I see YouTube, I am posting every damn day with one mission and one mission only. That is to elect Democrats, to put Democrats back in power, so that we can do things like work with our European brothers and sisters, our Canadian, fix our relationship with our Canadian brothers and sisters, fix our relationship with our Mexican brothers and sisters, and bring back normalcy and decency so we can push back against this Chinese insurgency out into the world. That, look, likes are great, comments are fantastic, but that share button, that is priceless. If you're on Blue Sky, if you're on Threads, and let's get this ride or die community out there. Let's do it, man. Then on top of that, I need you involved locally with your local Democratic Party so that you can help affect these elections on the local level. And folks, I need you to be ride or die. The pins are in the store now. If you want to buy a pin, I can't get it to you before this No King's Day, but we've got another No King's Day coming up. I believe in late June, there's going to be another No King's Day rally in late June. It's June or July. Somebody correct me. I'm having a mind freeze on that one. Somebody tell me, is it, I know we've got one this Saturday, and is it June or July is the next one? Wear your ride or die pins. So when somebody says, hey, what does that pin stand for? You can explain, hey, man, I wear the jersey. I wear the jersey. I'm for fixing the Democratic Party. Whatever they push back with, I don't like this or I don't like that. It's hey, man, we support primaries. We support fixing and making the Democratic Party better. You know me, I want to tie a rope around that sumbitch and pull left as hard as I freaking can. I think the Overton window, everything's moved too damn far right. But I do it from inside the house. And so can you. So that's what I got for you today, folks. I mean, let me catch up on these comments. I want to be able to answer any questions that you had. Yep, Elizabeth Warner is back in Plattner. And that's what I mean by the party. You know, there is no party putting his thumb on. People are like, well, Schumer supports Mills. Well, yeah, but you've got Elizabeth Warren out here supporting Plattner. This is a primary. There's no shooting the party in the ass because one fucking guy. Sunbathing in Chernobyl. Donnie Dumpy Pants wants his "we got him" moment so bad, and Zelensky is getting nominated. Yeah, we talked about that. I'm sorry. DK, ride or die Democrats, vote for Democrats. If there's a Democrat on the ballot, we vote for that Democrat. Show up for every election. Amen. Could not said it better myself. ET, when your money is interlinked, it, as well as the others, becomes stronger overall. Something that the Mad King doesn't understand. Get involved. Iranian hackers have breached Kash Patel's personal emails. Wow, that's going to be great. That's going to be great. Oh my God, have they released any yet? ET might decimate the county, but enrich the Epsteins. The Epstein class, yeah. ET, I have my pen on order. Do y'all get involved? Be ride or die, folks. It's the only way forward. It is the only way forward. I know I'm a broken record about that, but it really is the answer. I'm not promising you perfection. I'm not. There is no government anywhere in this world that does 100% the right thing, and that won't be the fucking Democrats either. I do not promise you bullshit, but I can tell you, take a look. Take a look at the economy. Take a look at the legislation they pass. You can tell by what they do what's inside Democrats' hearts. They are the only governing party we have. McBassage, for more than a millennium fighting crusades, Christians still butthurt. They lost every one of them. Can't be done fighting over imaginary friends yet. I'm telling you, I am so sick of the Middle East conflicts. I am. That's not hate towards any of the people. It's not. But man, I'm tired of these fights. LJ Jones, very, very generous of you. Grateful. There are memberships to be had, folks. Amen. Everything Trump touches turns to shit. Amen. Jenny, they should make Jared and Witkoff finance the Hormuz tax for shippers. No shit. You know, they are grifting left and right. Bluebird, Trump is a Russian agent. Pretty sure about it. Everybody keeps saying if you were going to write a list of shit that you have to do to destroy the United States of America, it would be identical to everything Trump is doing. Tony Mason, after listening to some of Trump's babbling in the cabinet meeting yesterday, it has become too obvious to the Republicans to get him out. Unfortunately, they won't. Chief SOB and Russian assets. Appreciate you the support, brother. And Russian assets. RICO administration. Get out and protest. Get off your ass. Go to their map. Go to their map on nokings.org for your city. They are everywhere. Yeah. Let's just turn on. You don't have. You know what, man? You don't have to. If any MAGA shows up and be like, you don't have to any of that. Just hang out with your people for a while. It'll be 2 hours in most places. Hour and a half, 2 hours. Sometimes, if they're really good and really going on, they'll go on for 3 or 4 hours. But you don't have to be there for the whole thing. Just show up, man. Fist bump some people and say, hey, look, I'm with you. I see you. I got you. We are here. Tube Kurt. Bummed I can't go to No Kings Boston tomorrow. Boy, I'm telling you, that is a good No Kings rally, man. Facilitating a community agricultural event. But like Heather Cox Richardson says, do what you can. Well done, my friend. Well done. Well done. And that is a sacrifice on your part. I tell you what, that Boston No Kings rally is something else. I can't wait to get back up there. Vinny Demon, welcome. Welcome. LJ Jones, 5 more minutes. Man, you are so gracious, so generous. Chief SOB, who is getting up and standing up for your country? NoKings.org, easy map. Get off your ass and make a stand. There's one in your town. Let's go. Weird Idaho liberal. I can't wait for this. Very late today. Just got in. Here's the dude to pass through the Bunker Buster Strait of Texas. Paul, quite a bargain. Got any coupons? I appreciate you, brother. 50 bucks is a lot of money to throw at somebody. I'm really grateful. Chief SOB, who's going to No Kings 3? Say you are in chat. Yeah, let us know. Let us know. Throw it up in chat if you're going. Are you going to the No Kings Day? I'm gonna go. I'm going. Cape Mary Light, welcome. China equal Timu for munitions. Chirpy, welcome. Here in South Dakota, they passed a version of the SAVE Act, proof of citizenship, emergency clause, so it goes into effect before June primary. That'll go to court and that will get knocked down. It will. But you know, they're going to cheat. They just are. They cannot compete in straight up contest of just getting votes. They can't compete in a regular democracy. They've got to cheat, and they always have. Heather Imke, thanks. Your show is always so informative. I'm glad. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I'm glad you're learning something. Jejch. I don't know how to pronounce that. Jaish. Caravan of trans coming to the border. Yeah, there's going to be, you know it, man. You know it. Vincent Day, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. My pleasure. You notice that the caravan stopped? Used to come every election. Now they stopped. Christopher Daly, love to you, Mrs. Texas and Mrs. Texas Paul. I mean, you notice that, right? The caravan stopped. So you know who was funding and putting together the caravans, right? Susan Sylvester going to No Kings. All right. Bobby Casper, new member. LJ Jones, man, gifted another membership. Way to go. L. Freeman Jr. channel. Welcome. I'll be live tomorrow from No Kings 3. All right. Daryl, thank you for the support. I appreciate you. All right. Well, look, I mean it. I want you to be there. I want y'all to go. I mean, I want to see all you people out at No Kings. Looking at all you people talking about that you're going. All right. New York in the house. And again, to our Canadian brothers and sisters, to our European brothers and sisters, shit to everybody. I'm sorry about this. I am. We fought our asses off to not make this happen. And we are going to stop this shit. We are. And I am sorry. But we're going to get there. That's right, my friend. Lemon pound cake. Afro Man. Yeah. That was a big deal to me. That really was a big deal to me. Because, you know, I mean, Afro Man did absolutely stand up and fight for our First Amendment right. And I have been very, very, very concerned about becoming a martyr because of what I say and do. And I couldn't be more grateful to Afro Man for setting precedents there. Way to go, amigo. Way to go. Well, look, that's what I have for you today. I do apologize for taking 2 hours of your time, but thank you for sharing it with me. I know, I mean, Friday, November 27th, Friday, March 27th. I mean, you spent 2 hours of your day with me. I couldn't be more grateful. On that note, enjoy some Texas cities at night.